Narrative. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. It's Melissa here with Jamen. We are wanting to present to you today some fabulous news coming from the world of media. Mother Earth living, zero waste. Audubon, but today we're going to discuss Oprah Winfrey. The Earth has taken excellent care of us. Let's return the favor.
All right. Well, let's dig in. Sweetie, you let me know if you want me to read or you can read.
You can start.
I'll start reading. We're just going to start reading at the... So this is their feature article for the April 2019 edition of the Oprah Magazine. And here we have the opening page, and we're just going to read from start to finish along with our commentary. April 2019. Our terrestrial home is facing a crisis, and no one but us can help it pull through. How, you ask? Join us as we lay out a master plan for the planet. Wow, I'm excited. What's the master plan? If you've been longing for clothes that are good for your wardrobe and the environment, hang on to your sustainably manufactured hat, page 104. Down with food waste. Up with making stems, skins, hits, and tops.
Well, this fashionable sweater that I'm wearing right now, I've owned for about 20 years. So am I being sustainable, Jamen?
No, because you're not buying new stuff. It's all about buying new stuff. Just buy green new stuff. Quit reusing. That's a bad word in Oprah land. It's not good for her sponsors. So then, and there's a caption to this Lego thing that's shown here, and the caption reads, "See the greenery dotting the Lego landscape? The company now has a line of shrubbery and trees produced from plant-based plastic. Lego is pushing to make all its bricks from sustainable materials by 2030, just in time." All right. See how we keep pushing everything off until 2030 or 2050?
How to save the planet. Got any ideas, anyone? It's now or never, fellow inhabitants of the earth. Here is our to-do list.
Well, Oprah has a whole master plan, so let's dig in. All right. First article, Trust the Science by Catherine Koch. Top article there. Climate change, the facts are facts. The damage is measurable. Let it galvanize you. Climate change is happening. It's supercharging hurricanes, wildfires, droughts, heat waves, and rain. It's heating the oceans and melting the giant ice sheets that anchor our poles, increasing coastal flood risk. Wherever we live on this earth, global warming is affecting us. Yes, us. Climate change doesn't matter just to future generations or to people in the South Pacific. So it's affecting us too? Oh my goodness.
It really is.
Oh wow. I'm a climate scientist, so I know just how unprecedented these realities are. Climate has never changed this fast in human history. I'm also a Christian, and that's part of why I care about this issue. Because even though it impacts us all, it's the poor, hungry, and vulnerable the world over, the very ones we're told to love and care for.
Excuse me. So what can we do about it, Jamen?
Well, we're going to get to Oprah's master plan.
Well, I'm really anxious to hear it.
So am I. But let's first trust the science and get the facts. It's the poor who are disproportionately harmed by these shifts. Yet often we turn on the news, go online, or talk to a family member, we hear doubt. The climate always fluctuates, or, but it's so cold today, or, those scientists are fudging the data. Never mind that according to orbital cycles that drive ice ages, we should be cooling, not warming, or that individual cold days don't disprove decades of warming, or that we scientists really and truly have no good reason to lie. Why is it so difficult to accept that our climate has been altered and humans are responsible? Because if we don't accept it, then we don't have to disrupt our way of life to address it. If only polar bears, distant future generations, and people who live far away will be harmed, why bother going vegan or buying expensive electric cars?
I've gone vegan.
Solutions we think will be unpleasant at best, painful at worst. It's easy to say, the problem isn't real, than to admit the problem is real, but I don't want to sacrifice anything to fix it. Facts, like gravity, are true regardless of our beliefs. A thermometer doesn't give us a different answer depending on our opinion of it. The planet has warmed nearly 2 degrees Fahrenheit since the Industrial Revolution began. After carefully examining all the natural reasons why the climate has changed in the past, scientists have no doubt that this time humans are the culprits. By mining and burning massive amounts of coal, oil, and gas, by cutting down and burning forests, and by cultivating vast herds of animals to accommodate our meat consumption, we've been practically wrapping a blanket around our planet. So what can we do? Finding solutions feels overwhelming. I know. But the good news is that there are solutions, and if we act soon enough, we can avoid many of the worst outcomes. Our attitudes and decisions matter. We can make personal choices, buying efficient appliances, eating less meat, and support large-scale progress, transitioning to clean, homegrown sources of energy that generate local jobs, don't pollute our air, and will never run out. Often we look at the world's problems with a sense of powerlessness, but now our future truly is in our hands. And that's why the science matters, because nothing happens until we face it head on and then decide to get to work.
Hey, I've got a great idea.
What's that?
Let's pull up all the natural grass out front here in the garden and put down plastic grass. I know you can get it really cheap at Costco, and we won't have to water. What do you think?
No, I think natural grass is better. Natural is better. So anyway, that was number 1. Trust the science. I think you're trying to be cynical and funny here, and that's okay. Number 2, know the lingo. It's harder to tune out when you get what the words mean. Shall I keep reading, or do you want to read?
I'll read a bit
Okay,
if you
no,
like.
Jared, go for it. Know the lingo.
Climate. The average climate conditions typically measured over years. Fluctuations in temperature, precipitation, or other variables that last for an extended period of time are what we call climate change. Greenhouse gases. Any gases that trap heat in the atmosphere, including carbon dioxide, methane, and hydrofluorocarbons, which are used in refrigerants, aerosols, propellants, and fire retardants. The more present they are, the hotter the planet can get. Carbon dioxide. 1 carbon atom plus 2 oxygen atoms equal the mother of all greenhouse gases. Emissions. Greenhouse gases are other pollutants released into the atmosphere, often through burning fossil fuels. Carbon neutral. If an activity that releases CO2, say driving to work, is balanced by the reduction or offsetting of emissions elsewhere, say a CO2 absorbing endeavor, that activity is said to be carbon neutral. Fossil fuels. Decayed plant and animals, transformed by millions of years of heat and pressure into natural gas, crude oil, or coal. Clean or renewable energy. While everyone agrees that solar and wind are renewable, the sun will keep shining at least for several billion more years. How clean they are depends on other factors. Currently, wind and solar provide intermittent power that must be supplemented by other sources to maintain consistent supply. Those backups are often coal or somewhat cleaner, but still a fossil fuel natural gas. Conservation. Protecting or restoring natural environments, resources, and wildlife. Sustainability. The maintaining of conditions that guarantee human society and the natural world can continue to coexist. Some of these practices include the 3 R's: reducing, reusing, and recycling. Green, shorthand for related to environmentalism. Back to you, Jamen Shively.
All right, so that was number 2. Number 3, think outside the box. All right. So here, let's see what we find in terms of solutions that are outside the box. Think outside the box, or take a page from those who do. To wit, these game-changing ideas coming to a city or coastline near you. Rain, rain, it's okay. Since 2013, the low-lying Netherlands city of Rotterdam has installed 9 water squares. Picture a slightly sunken concrete pool in flood-prone areas, some of which sit 16 feet below sea level. When dry, the squares serve as public gathering places where people can lounge, lunch, or play sports. When heavy showers occur, the squares can retain up to 450,000 gallons of runoff from rooftops and streets, keeping it from flooding neighborhoods that can't quickly drain it away. So what's really interesting here is this is sort of, mitigation for sea level rise, but it's not actually solving the problem of climate change. I just want to point that out. It's not halting or slowing down or much less reversing climate change. Next section, growing up. Public gardens are good for the earth. The vegetation can help filter out air pollution and our personal well-being. A 2018 study suggests proximity to nature can reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. But not every city has the resources green spaces need to thrive. In Singapore's Gardens by the Bay is an example of how to do a lot with little. It features a grove of 80 to 160-foot super trees, man-made steel and concrete timbers that support more than 200 species and varieties of orchids, ferns, and other climbing plants, none of which require soil, and all of which absorb water from the air. The structures also give bird life cozy spots to call home and provide shade to pedestrians below. And 11 of the 18 trees harness power via embedded solar cells to illuminate themselves after sunset. Okay, so we're looking for solutions to climate change, and we've got 18 man-made trees. Hardly a large-scale solution of any kind. Next one, talking trash. I guess that's what we're doing here. Yeah.
Okay, but before you get too far down that road, what I would like to say about that is that these are individualized projects that are working towards making some kind of contribution, whether it's absorbing carbon, picking up garbage, collecting water. And I think the more of these kinds of projects that happen, the more impact we'll have on the planet. It's not a proposal like yours, Jamen, which is radical collective intelligence, creating a platform where we can address really major issues and find solutions. But in the meantime, they're at least creative endeavors to bring about change in the right direction. They're not absolute solutions, but they are, I think, in the right direction towards creating a new way of living on the planet, possibly.
I hear what you're saying. They still seem like very little kind of Band-Aid solutions and nothing that's really radical, because what's being offered here is a master plan.
This is true.
For the planet. I want to see what is the master plan.
Right. Good point.
Next one, talking trash, which is admittedly what I'm doing here part of the time. When landfills are overrun with organic material, onion skins, lawn clippings, they belch methane, the heat-trapping greenhouse gas. One U.S. city is doing its part to reduce this noxious emission, Phoenix. In April 2017, the metropolis built a shiny industrial-sized compost facility to turn food and green debris into rich fertilizer. The system is currently converting 55,000 tons of waste annually, allowing the city to divert 33% of its rubbish from landfills. As more Phoenicians climb aboard the compost train, the facility can be scaled up to tackle 220,000 tons. So that's really interesting. Composting. Now, one thing I want to point out is that we're not really talking about radical change here. We're talking about little Band-Aids on top of our current, omnicidal lifestyle.
Right.
Next section, H2 what? Since 2011, the World Economic Forum has identified water shortages as a huge threat. Think cyber attack level huge to global security. Who are you going to call? Namibia. For more than 50 years, the arid African nation's capital, Windhoek, has recycled its tap water from sewage water, a cheaper and more energy efficient process than desalination, And cutting-edge technology is wiping out the yuck factor. The treatment plant in Windhoek can produce 5.6 million gallons of crystal clear water each day. And cities like Wichita Falls, Texas, and Tel Aviv, Israel, are already following suit. So this is about just producing more clean water for drinking, but that really doesn't address climate change.
Well, it also doesn't address why are we polluting major waterways, whether they're oceans, rivers, lakes. We know that lots of industry, so we just heard about a tequila plant that's dumping its yeast into a river and killing it. And we've heard about the Cuyahoga River catching fire a number of times over the years in the past. So we're not actually addressing the source of the problem. We're, again, it's like creating stronger and stronger suntan lotions because we keep putting holes in the ozone. So it's not really a solution. And it's also not addressing water for wildlife. We keep focusing on humans and we're not focusing on health for the planet and health for all living beings, not just humans.
Right. Good point. Exactly. Next section, Coast Guards. Can you picture paddling around Boston's Back Bay on Venetian-style canals or strolling by sponge-like wetlands along New York City's coastline? Rising sea levels threaten Beantown and the Big Apple alike. It's predicted that much of lower Manhattan, as well as more than 32,000 Boston homes, could face chronic flooding by 2100. By 2100, again.
We're still on the planet.
We're still on the 2100 time scale. Nothing to worry about till 2100. But both cities are embracing flood prevention plans that include erecting levees to hold back storm surges, tunneling, turning alleyways into waterways, and elevating buildings above sea level. If these epic sports rivals can find something to agree on, there's hope for us all.
How do you elevate a skyscraper?
Jack it up. How do you jack up a magazine article? Do you want to read the next one or shall I?
Don't forget the kids. As a pioneering lawsuit makes clear, they are the ones who will be cleaning up our mess. Imagine you're a teen again. Say you live in Oregon, where wildfires annually consume large tracts of land, choking the air with pollutants and sometimes torching homes. You wonder, will the wilderness you explored as a child someday be gone? Kelsey Juliana has asked herself just that. I've lived through extreme droughts and forest fires, says the 22-year-old University of Oregon student. So when she had the chance to become the named plaintiff in a federal lawsuit, she eagerly signed up. Juliana versus United States represents 21U's ACA, the climate kids. Thank you guys, you are awesome.
Heck yeah.
And is based on a novel claim that U.S. energy policy, long reliant on fossil fuels, violates young people's constitutional rights. In quotes, we argue that the government has knowingly perpetuated the climate crisis for more than 50 years, says Julia Olson, lead attorney on the case. And we've actually heard her speaking and some of the climate kids, and they are really doing awesome work. And more of us need to be doing this sort of work. She's the lead attorney on the case. Quote, despite people within government saying that burning fossil fuels has catastrophic consequences. As Olson points out, the Supreme Court has already recognized our rights to personal security, family autonomy, and our plaintiffs are being deprived of both. Olson's case also invokes the 14th Amendment's equal protection principles. In quotes, the reality that children will live with climate change for much longer than adults is one of the factors that makes them a class of citizens being discriminated against. Juliana and her co-plaintiffs have watched their suit stop, start, and stop again for 4 years. It's currently under review by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in Oregon. The government requests for dismissal all have been denied. Whatever it takes, the climate kids are in it to win. The civil rights movement needed both bus boycotts and Brown versus Board of Education to be successful, says Juliana. The grassroots climate movement and youth-led litigation are similarly working together. I know some see that as radical, but it's not. It's patriotic. And I would like to say that it's not just patriotic, but this is about saving life on Earth. And our survival depends on all of us waking up, taking action that is right action to really look at how we live on the planet and how we can be contributors to stopping pollution, stopping growth, or slowing it down, and restoring natural habitats for wildlife, wild flora, wild fauna, and.
Yeah, and for me, the elephant in the room is that we need to talk about radical whole system change. It's our whole modality of life, our entire set of living arrangements, and the mode of production and distribution of the global economy, which can be summarized effectively as an economy of hoarding. We're each trying to accumulate as much as we can. That's the name of the game for survival. No one has a right to food or shelter or any of that. You have to go out and accumulate and hoard in order to be able to have these basic human rights, these basic human needs fulfilled. And with 7.5 billion and growing 1 billion every 13 years, people all playing the game of hoarding, it is little wonder that we are destroying and extinguishing very rapidly all of life on Earth. That's the elephant in the room, right? Little band-aids on top of this giant mound of dung are not going to save the day. So I'm still waiting to hear what is the master plan for planet Earth. Do you want to read the next section, or shall I?
We're right here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It says, the climate kids speak. We have the opportunity to force our government to justify what they're doing, or maybe admit they just don't feel like they have to protect us. When I see melting ice caps and the deterioration of natural resources, I think about the human beings affected. Despite homes being washed into the ocean and wildfires destroying lives, many people fail to make that personal connection. These are quotes from these kids.
Yeah, and also when houses burn down, like in Paradise, actually you and I drove through a town that had burned down completely. I mean, down to the foundations, and everything was gone. And it really looked like the town was being rebuilt in exactly the same way it had been built originally. Rather than looking holistically at how we inhabit space, how do we tend forests? How do we prevent forest fires? So planting schemes, building with different kinds of materials, building rather than sprawling, condensing our town centers, smaller structures. I mean, there are many ways to address this, and it just seems like we keep going back to business as usual.
Right, but even if we were to change the architecture and city planning, we still are not even getting to the root of the problem, which is our fundamental modality of life here on planet Earth as human beings.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're still hoarding, right? We're still 7.5 billion people overproducing and hoarding. And sure, doing things a bit more efficiently or with a bit more fire protection. Again, this is too little too late. We need to get radical. What is the radical plan for saving life on Earth? That's still an open question. And with a master plan for the planet, I want to see what Oprah has in mind. So let's read on. Two more quotes from these kids involved in the lawsuit. I live on a barrier island in Florida that will eventually be underwater because of sea level rise. Being part of this case lets me feel like I'm protecting my home. Final quote. If climate change wipes us all out tomorrow, how do we want to be remembered? As the generation that did nothing in the face of adversity and chose profits over people? Or as the generation that, despite all odds, came together to give this problem our best shot? Amen. Nathan from Alaska.
Well, there won't be anyone around to remember us. We all get wiped out by climate change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, so I'm still waiting for the master plan. Number 5.
Let's just show this.
Yeah.
Everybody, you see that? All right.
Sweat the small stuff. because your micro choices add up. Dial back your water heater and fridge. You monitor your thermostat. Now do the same for two of your home's biggest energy guzzlers. Refrigerators that can keep food safely chilled when set to a moderate 40, and for most people, a water heater set to 120 rather than the manufacturer default of 140 will provide a perfectly steamy shower. 8.7 billion gallons of water will be saved this year if every American who washes their car at home went to a car wash just once. Turn off the water while you brush your teeth. Assuming you brush for 2 minutes twice daily, you could save almost 3,285 gallons per year. 15%. That's how much your highway gas mileage could improve if you used your vehicle's Eco Cruise control setting. Go electric. The Union of Concerned Scientists estimates that over the course of 1 year, a gas-powered car costs $1,500 to fuel and releases 4.7 metric tons of greenhouse gases. And electric cars cost $421 to fuel and release only 2.3 metric tons. There is no mention of cows, by the way, yet.
Although they do mention eat less meat.
Yes.
They don't say don't eat meat, they say eat less.
Right, eat less. 80% less energy used to make dinner. Yes, please. All it takes is wiser use of your kitchen appliances. A microwave instead of an oven. Well, we know what microwaves do to food, by the way. They take out all the nutrients of the food.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And you probably tend to buy frozen if you're going to use a microwave, so that's not very smart. A pressure cooker, that's a good idea. That cut simmering time up to 70%.
When your fridge or air conditioner shuffles off its mortal coils, dispose of it properly. Research shows that one of the key solutions to climate change is managing refrigerants, which accelerate the warming of the atmosphere. To find your closest refrigerant reclaiming facility, check out the EPA's list. So I just want to restate here. Research shows that one of the key solutions to climate change is managing refrigerants. Well, hallelujah. If we only manage our refrigerants, we can solve climate change. Good heavens. My goodness. 2.34 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions each year. This is one of the negative impacts of receipt paper printing in the U.S., according to an estimate by Green America. The ATM variety are especially needless, considering you can have an e-receipt sent to your inbox. I mean, these all add up, but we're not facing the giant elephants in the room, which are the construction industry, the transportation industry, the packaging of food and other products, fossil fuels that fuel all the above,
water, industries that consume water like Coca-Cola,
totalitarian agriculture that devastate ecosystems and produce monocultures, all the phosphate fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides.
I love this one, guys. Back away from beef sometimes.
Sometimes. Not all the time. Maybe once a month, back away from beef. Back away from beef, sometimes. Forgive us for saying so, but livestock flatulence accounts for 26% of man-made methane emissions in the U.S., since we're doing the breeding. That's why they call it man-made. Methane traps atmospheric heat, speeding up global warming. How to address this gas crisis? Consume less beef and dairy.
And no mention of cruelty to animals, which is a major reason to go vegan, plus the amount of water cattle consume and grain that has to be produced. That is way more than we produce for the entire global population of humans on the planet that feeds cows.
Yeah, to produce 1 calorie of beef, it takes 20 calories of grains. Next statistic, 90% of the energy used by your washing machine goes to warming its water. Switch to a detergent formulated to work best in cold water. Tide, Purex, Gain, and Persil all make cold water varieties. Ching, ching, ching! Notice the brand,
Yeah,
the brand
right.
promotion here.
Absolutely.
So instead of
And
using
no-
chemical A, use chemical B.
Right. And no mention of eco products there, because I don't think Tide is eco-friendly,
No,
by the
no,
way.
exactly.
Did she just make this much money with those names that we just read?
Yeah, she's showing that she's big business friendly. Now the next number is 459,259,300,000. That's one big number, and by one estimate, that's how many single-use plastic bottles are purchased worldwide each year, less than half of which get recycled. While you're breaking your bottle habit, here's another eco-conscious change worth making: switching to LED light bulbs. It's theorized that their rapid, widespread adoption could reduce energy consumption by the equivalent of 44 power plants by 2027. I mean, again, these are all gains in efficiency and less waste, none of which get to the root problem of overconsumption generally and our entire set of living arrangements.
Right. And the story we're living by, like, let's stop producing single-use plastic. Full stop. By the way, San Francisco just banned single-use bottles.
Single-use plastic bottles.
Plastic bottles.
Mhm.
Single-use plastic bottles. Thank you, San Francisco, for leading the way on this one.
All right. Number 6, agitate. Do you want to read that one, sweetie?
3 smart, doable ways to make your voice matter. Green your vote. The Vote Climate U.S. Political Action Committee has analyzed the public positions of every member of Congress, ranking them on a spectrum from climate zero to climate hero. Cast your ballot accordingly. But don't stop there. With the announcement of the U.S. withdrawal from the Paris Agreement on climate change, it is incumbent on local governments to keep leading the fight. Urge your governor and mayor to join the U.S. Climate Alliance and the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, respectively, and insist that your state and city legislators articulate a plan for how they will help reverse and adapt to the effects of climate change. If they don't have an answer, support someone who does. Put your money where your principles are. At least 20% of global greenhouse gases are emitted by publicly owned fossil fuel companies, according to the environmental nonprofit CDP's 2017 Carbon Majors report. Odds are that some of them feature in the funds fueling your 401k. Drain the oil money from your retirement account and take stock in the future with investment funds devoted to green energy like Fidelity Select Environmental Alternative Energy Portfolio and the new Alternatives Fund. You might also consider individual investments in the diverse coalition of companies, IKEA, General Motors, and Etsy, to name a few. Ching, ching, ching. I think she just added some more dollars to her account there. Listed at their 100.org, all of which have pledged to use 100% renewable power by 2050 or earlier. Keep your company in good company. If you own or work for a small business, half of private sector employees do, join or ask your employer to join the American Sustainable Business Council, which advocates for legislation and other policies that privilege a threefold bottom line: people, planet, and profit. While you're at it, let your local Chamber of Commerce know that clean, cheap, renewable energy is good for every kind of business and should be a top priority. And remember, customers, do take notice. According to a 2017 Nielsen survey, 69% of North American consumers say it's extremely or very important that companies implement programs to improve the environment. I love this one. Don't panic.
Why on earth would we panic? Don't panic. Thanks, sweetie. Since 2006, the Climate Reality Project, founded by former Vice President and ardent environmentalist Al Gore, has trained more than 17,000 climate-ready leaders of all ages and nationalities to spread the word about climate change. We asked a few to tell us how they stay positive amid warming poles and rising seas. I just wanted to mention, one of those 17,000 is our good friend, Dr. Sailesh Rao, who went through the Al Gore training and then brought to Al Gore's attention the fact that it's the consumption of meat which is the single biggest driver of planetary destruction, and that if we all went vegan, that would be the single biggest and simplest change that we could make to save life on Earth. And Al Gore completely ignored him.
Yeah, that's right.
Totally ignored him. And so he went off on his own, and we're, of course, supporting Dr. Rao's excellent efforts. But anyway, here are some quotes from a number of people who've worked with Al Gore's organization. Maddie Atkins, age 20, in Austin, Texas. I try to remember that there is still so much we haven't lost. When I first heard about the effects of climate change, I thought, even if I do everything in my power, will it be enough to unbleach the coral reefs? But when we focus only on the things we've lost, we lose sight of the many, many things we still have time to save. The lands that haven't been deforested, the coastlines not yet underwater. These are beautiful, nourishing, wild places I love, and fighting the climate crisis from a place of love rather than fear is more sustainable for the soul.
But we also need to be very realistic and know that we are losing 200 species a day.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need to get informed, and then we need to radically change.
Yep.
It's not just about creating parks or little nature reserves. We actually need to turn a major amount of land over back to Mother Earth.
And we need to cool the planet through such things as geoshading, and we need the political solutions to empower those. We're nipping around the edges here. We've got to get to the root. Next quote from Bill Bradbury, Salem, Oregon. I'm convinced that in the coming years, our country will flip into developing alternatives to fossil fuels, not only because we need to, but also because those alternatives are cheaper. Jamie Margolin, age 17, Seattle. I actually know her, met her at a city council meeting. What makes me hopeful is the fellow youths I work with to raise awareness of climate issues. We're just a bunch of broke high school kids, but every day we get on conference calls, ready to organize mass mobilizations and social media campaigns. In terms of solutions, we have everything we need. There's no reason to wait. We have everything we need? Well, what are the solutions? I'm still waiting to hear what are the radical solutions that get to the heart of this. Jetsiri Pando, age 39.
I don't think we're used to thinking in these terms.
No, we're certainly not. But I mean, big problems call for big solutions.
Right.
And the big solutions that we need are non-existent today. We need to co-create them. And that's why I'm a big advocate for radical collective intelligence, so that we can have the means by which to co-create these mega solutions, which I'm not seeing here. Yatsiri Pando, age 39, Mexico City. When I think about the destruction and harm humans have done to the planet, I immediately think about the people I've met who are doing what they can where they are. Those who work to save nearby forests and lakes, or their parks, or the trees outside their homes. I've been especially moved and inspired by indigenous people fighting against mining, logging, and fracking companies. There is always someone trying to save their most beloved place, and that's where it all starts. So these are great starts, but is it too little too late? And when are we actually going to face the giant elephant in the room that we need whole system radical transformation? Wei Tai Kwok, age 55, San Francisco. I've grown more hopeful in recent years, not less, because humans are increasingly waking up to the threat of climate change. China and the US, uneasy allies at best, came together to agree to address the crisis. Who would have thought this was possible? Or that Pope Francis would appeal to all peoples of the earth to take urgent action. I just want to comment, yes, there's urgent pleas coming from all over the place, but where is our response? Where is our collective response?
The firefighters aren't here yet.
Nope. I've worked in solar for...
And excuse me for interrupting you, but we know from your own walk with the Laudato Si, that's the work of Pope Francis, that yes, he has written this incredible document. Yes, it has been circulated, but nobody's doing anything again.
And hardly anyone's even heard about it.
Right. And those who have, like the center in Granada, they're not doing anything with that work. Even though they call themselves the Laudato Si Center. The
Laudato Si Institute. And we reached out to them to offer to collaborate. They were like, nope, we're not interested in collaboration. So they're just resumes.
So what's up?
They're resume stuffing. I've worked in solar for a decade, and system costs have declined nearly 75%, a startling leap in progress. Electric cars have made huge strides. They're quieter, non-polluting, and fun to drive. They're not a sacrifice. They're just better. Finally, in engaging with the community as a climate leader, one thing has become clear to me. People care about these issues. Young and old, conservative and progressive, most want to know how they can help. So, okay, so the fire alarms are being sounded. They've been being sounded ever since, Rio 1992 or Silent Spring 1963. Where's the beef, people, right? That's what we need to acknowledge, that there are no mega solutions on the table, and we really don't have the capacity to generate these mega solutions. These are little nibble around the edges. I'm actually shocked that they mentioned how in Singapore they've erected 18, count them, man-made trees made of steel and concrete. All right, so where is the master plan for planet Earth? Was that the end of it?
That is the end of it.
Great, so there's our master plan.
Next is wear and care.
So we're back in fashion here.
A crisis averted. Time to go shopping.
And cooking. Well,
yeah, yummy.
okay.
Yeah, let's just see what else we've got in this magazine for and caring for Mother Earth. I mean, here you see Oprah standing in some forest, wearing a bright red dress and various other fashion accessories. The visual. Okay, so we got makeup. Great. That's very polluting.
And her funders.
And her funders. A word from our sponsors. More makeup. All right. Talbots. What is this? More fashion? I don't even know what the hell Talbots is.
Probably fashion.
Okay.
More makeup.
Olay. Face everything. Face anything. Great. Even the climate crisis. With our makeup, you can face anything. Lash paradise. Whoever the editor of this magazine is deserves some
Let's
lashing.
skip some of these ads and let's just get to the meat there.
Well, is there any meat? Where's the beef?
Okay, I don't see any.
More ads,
Yeah.
more kitchen appliances.
More ads. Make believe. Yes, that's what it is.
We are in make-believe land.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, more ads.
More ads, more fashion.
Lots of ads here. Let's get to the here.
More ads.
Wow.
The Oprah
It's
shopping
incredible,
catalog.
isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, this is a big moneymaker.
All right, here we go. The Biotech Trailblazer. Oh, that's all on makeup. Hairbrushes. Oh, here you go, Jamen. A subject close to your heart. The Curious Woman's Guide to Cannabis.
Feeling good. That's the goal. Feeling good. That should be the cover of this magazine. Feeling good. How to feel good in the face of near-term
Extinction.
planetary extinction. Anyway, so it's an article about weed. Anyway, goes on for a couple of pages.
Yeah.
Hey, nature lovers, have you ever considered what happens to your birth control after it's served its purpose? We've eco-safe birth control.
Okay.
Condom, the pill, vaginal ring. Whoa. You are what you eat. Dietary choices can powerfully reduce your eco impact. So we've got, instead of lettuce, try cabbage. Let's see where
There's nothing about meat there,
let's see
though.
where
Or
they
eggs.
mention meat.
Oh, instead of beef, here we go. Try beef.
But that's the very last one.
Yeah.
Out of 6. And it says growing crops and sustaining livestock requires an enormous amount of land and water and involves high levels of pesticides and chemical fertilizers. You can give the planet a bit of a break by making simple changes to the way you eat. So instead of lettuce, try cabbage. Instead of white rice, try sorghum. Instead of acai, try blueberries. Instead of shrimp, try scallops. Oh my good.
Good one.
Finally, instead of beef, try beans. Research suggests that producing beef uses, on average, 28 times more land and 11 times more water than producing poultry or pork. Great, so let's shift to poultry or pork. and is one of the biggest agricultural drivers of deforestation worldwide.
And by the way, pigs are one of the most intelligent animals. They're like dogs, and we're torturing them so we can have bacon.
Beans, by contrast, bring nitrogen from the air into the soil, helping to naturally fertilize plants. They're cheap enough for any budget and good for you too. High in fiber, B vitamins, and minerals with none of beef's saturated fat. How? Instead of ground meat, use beans in chili, tacos, burritos, and casseroles. They're satisfying and sustainable.
You know what I find really interesting is that when you go to the supermarket, you really don't get a feeling of the urgency around the depletion of the planet's resources. For example, let's just take the ocean, okay? We're under this illusion that the ocean just constantly producing. And yet, I think I read that this year alone, 48 whales were found dead. I believe a lot of those deaths were caused by starvation. We know here in the Northwest that the orcas are starving to death. We lost a number of them last year, and they're swimming down to California, which is the southern resident pods, which is very unusual because they can't find the food here. So this idea of changing from shrimp to scallops, I would say let's put a moratorium on commercial fishing for a while, and let's clean up the oceans and let them be restored naturally. But it's not going to happen if we keep polluting them, keep fishing them. We've got to stop putting PCBs into the water, and we need to stop sonar testing, which is blasting the ears of the whales and the porpoise and the dolphins and creating massive deaths.
Yeah, we need radical whole system change, and I'm not saying that's easy. And in fact, because it is so difficult, that is why we need to form a vastly higher form of intelligence than what we've manifested to date, and certainly higher than what you see in reading magazines like this.
Well, you guys, here's an even better one. Keep calm and recycle on. Stressed about global warming, not abrupt climate change, by the way, here it's called global warming, which it ain't. Let us help you chill out. And look, it's a polar bear in an armchair.
And he's happy and reading and all relaxed. Recycle on. All you have to do is recycle and everything will be fine. Good grief. Keep consuming. Just recycle which you would normally throw into the garbage.
So really our point here is that we've got major problems on this planet that need to be addressed. And that this sort of response is not appropriate.
It's a feel-good response. It's basically, you know what, everything's under control. There is a master plan. Chill out, relax, keep consuming, just make some minor tweaks and everything will be fine.
So we invite you to come join us to find big solutions for big problems.
That's right. We meet every Tuesday on this very channel, on this very YouTube channel, Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time on the social club at the end of this world and the beginning of whatever we co-create in the spirit, in the new world. We need to create a radically different new world. And also, please reach out to us on radish.org, where we're creating a platform for radical collective intelligence to manifest a massively higher form of intelligence than anything we've seen on planet Earth to date, so that we can co-create all of the mega radical solutions that we need to transform holistically all of life on Earth. Our entire set of living arrangements, our politics, our culture, and our very fundamental story of humanity that undergirds our culture. All of this needs to radically transform if we want to have a chance at saving life on Earth, including our own.
Right, so be courageous, be imaginative, and join us, and let's find solutions together.
Thank you. Hoa.
Great talking with you guys and seeing you.
Thank you, C.
Bye for
Thank
now.
you. Bye for now.